What if I told you that the greatest miracle in the Bible, the Exodus, the Red Sea, the Ten Commandments, might never have happened if Pharaoh had simply chosen kindness over fear? Think about that for a second. What if Pharaoh never enslaved the Israelites? What if he looked at them and saw not a threat, but a blessing? What if the Egyptians and Israelites had lived as one people, building a nation together, side by side in peace? Now that's a world worth imagining. It's morning in Egypt. The sun rises over the golden sands and the Nile flows like a ribbon of light. The pyramids shimmer, the markets are busy, and in this world there are no whips, no cries, no chains. The Israelites walk freely through the streets, dressed in linen like any other Egyptian citizen. They trade in the markets, farm their lands, and pray to their God, not in secret, but openly. Pharaoh sits in his palace, watching the harmony of his people. He's not thinking of war or rebellion. Instead, he says to his advisors, "These Israelites are good for Egypt. Their God is powerful. Let them stay among us as brothers." And that one decision changes everything. The Israelites and Egyptians work together. They build cities not out of slavery, but cooperation. The Egyptians bring their knowledge of science and architecture, while the Israelites bring their skill, wisdom, and strong faith. Egypt becomes richer than ever, not just in gold, but in peace. In this world, Moses never runs away. He grows up as a prince, educated in Egyptian wisdom, but guided by his faith in the God of his ancestors. Pharaoh doesn't see him as a threat, but as a teacher. He invites Moses into his court, saying, "Tell me more of this Yahweh, the God who has no face, yet commands the heavens." And Moses speaks with calm and grace. He tells Pharaoh stories of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He tells him how one God created all things, the earth, the stars, even the Nile that gives Egypt life. Pharaoh listens, fascinated. He starts to wonder if this invisible God might be the source of Egypt's blessings. Soon the people begin to notice something. The crops grow stronger, the Nile flows steadily, the animals multiply, rain comes when it's needed, and peace fills the land. The Egyptians start to respect this strange new God. Some even pray to him in their own homes. Years pass and Egypt shines like never before. The Israelites no longer dream of escape because there's nothing to escape from. Their children play in Egyptian gardens, learn Egyptian writing, and grow up calling Egypt home. The Hebrew songs of praise mix with Egyptian music in the markets. The sound of laughter replaces the cries of bondage. Pharaoh grows old and wise, proud of his legacy. He says, "We are one people, Egyptian by nation, but united under heaven." And everyone cheers. It sounds perfect, doesn't it? But somewhere deep inside, something begins to fade. The Israelites slowly forget who they are. They forget the promises made to Abraham, the promise of a land that would be theirs, a place called Canaan. They forget that they were never meant to stay in Egypt forever. As life grows easier, their faith grows quieter. They no longer call on God with desperate hearts because there's no desperation left. Why pray when everything already feels perfect? Why chase a destiny when comfort feels like enough? Moses grows old and thoughtful. He walks by the Nile one evening, watching the sunset glow red across the water. Children laugh nearby, their voices echoing in the warm air. And he whispers to himself, "They're free, but asleep. Their chains are gone, but so is their fire." He knows something most people don't, that sometimes peace can be more dangerous than pain. Comfort can trap a soul faster than chains ever could. When you have everything, you stop searching. When you stop struggling, you stop growing. Years go by. The Israelites build temples and homes, live long, easy lives, but they never see the land of promise. They never walk through the desert, never taste manna from heaven, never hear the voice of God thundering from the mountain. Because when there's no need for deliverance, there are no miracles. The stories of the Red Sea, of freedom and faith, they never happen because they never needed to. And maybe that's the tragedy of it all. Pharaoh's kindness saved them from pain, but it also kept them from purpose. They gained peace, but they lost their identity. They forgot the God who called them out of comfort to something greater. You see, sometimes pain is not punishment, it's direction. Sometimes God allows hardship, not because he's cruel, but because he knows we'd rather settle in Egypt when he has a Canaan waiting for us. Without struggle, we forget our calling. Without storms, we forget who controls the wind. So if Pharaoh never enslaved them, the Israelites would have lived good, peaceful lives, but they would have died as Egyptians, not as Israel. They would have been comfortable, but never chosen. And that's the thing about destiny. It's often born out of discomfort. So maybe this slavery, as painful as it was, became the fire that forged their faith. Maybe those tears were the reason miracles ever happened at all. Because without pain, they'd never cry out to God, and without that cry, they'd never see him move. And that's the quiet truth behind it all. Comfort feels safe, but it can make you forget who you are. Struggle hurts, but it wakes you up. So if Pharaoh never enslaved them, yes, the world would have been peaceful, but the greatest story of faith, freedom, and deliverance would have never been told. The Red Sea would never have parted. The tablets of stone would never have been written. The fire, the cloud, the promised land, all of it, gone. Because sometimes it's the pain we hate that pushes us into the destiny we were born for. So the next time life feels unfair, remember this version of Egypt. Beautiful, peaceful, but hollow. And remember this: not every storm comes to destroy you. Some come to remind you you're meant for more. Pharaoh's kindness might have kept them safe, but it would have kept them small. And that's why God sometimes lets the fire burn, not to kill the gold, but to make it shine.